я без проблем.
Но не спускаясь в легкий вес.
Ну да, ради чего? У меня был пояс в легком весе, меня никто не побеждал в легком весе. Я просто оставил пояс и поднялся наверх. Ради чего? Ради пояса, мне это не интересно. И если он хочет подняться, то он не доказал в легком весе. У него там очень много работы. Тот же Арман Tsarukyan каждый день выставляет его, просит с ним подраться.
Man Makachev has just dismissed the prospect of Priya at lightweight and doesn't want to move down. A champion should first fight the worthy challengers in his category before considering a move up. In a recent interview, Islam Makhachev talked about his upcoming fight. He communicated that his involvement in that division is over and finds no reason to come back. Rather, Makhachev proposed the
ability is on Topuria to move up, framing it as a low-risk move for him, while
that he has no more left to show at lightweight.
Ваших потенциальных соперников. Я понял, что вы в легкий вес возвращаться не собираетесь, но все же. Есть Илия Топурия.
Я открыт, я без проблем.
Но не спускаясь в легкий вес.
Ну да, ради чего? У меня был пояс в легком весе, меня никто не побеждал в легком весе. Я просто оставил пояс и поднялся наверх. Ради чего? Ради пояса, мне это не интересно. И если он хочет подняться, то welcome.
А верите в то, что Илия может подняться еще на одну весовую категорию?
Он может подняться, потому что он тоже ничего не теряет, если поднимается. Он проиграет, вернется к себе в легкий вес, и все, там будет вращаться.
Makachev proposed that Ilia Topuria himself at lightweight instead of pursuing a fight with him. He expressed plainly he has no desire to return to that division. There's still much to demonstrate in that regard. Makhachev further identified Arman Tsarukyan as an obvious opponent, mentioning Arman has repeatedly requested that bout and is worthy of the chance.
Больше нужен Топурия, как вы сами считаете, чем вам?
100%. Я и так являлся чемпионом в легком весе, и я спускаться точно не буду. А ему, я повторюсь, что он ничего не теряет, если он поднимется. С моей стороны, и это не будет правильным звать кого-то с меньшего веса, который только стал чемпионом. Он еще ничего не доказал в легком весе. У него там очень много работы. Тот же Арман Tsarukyan каждый день выставляет его, просит с ним подраться.
Subsequently, Islam Makhachev confessed his surprise at how effortlessly he controlled Jack Della Maddalena on the mat. He elaborated that after analyzing JDM's previous contests, he had anticipated the sole escape Maddalena relies on. Once that choice was nullified, Makhachev recognized there was hardly any resistance remaining, and from then, he could keep him held fast for as long as he...
Знаете, мы изучали соперников, смотрели его бои. До меня он дрался с Белявом, и у Белява тоже борцовские навыки. Он переводил...
Islam Makhachev has just dismissed the prospect of facing Topuria at lightweight and refuses to move back down. He believes a champion should first fight the worthy challengers in his own category before considering a move up. In a recent interview, Makhachev discussed his upcoming fight and made it clear that his involvement in the lightweight division is over. He sees no reason to return. Instead, Makhachev suggests that Topuria should be the one to move up, calling it a low-risk move for the featherweight champion, while emphasizing he has nothing left to prove at 155 pounds. Makhachev proposed that Ilia Topuria should prove himself at lightweight, instead of pursuing a fight with him. He made it plain that he has no desire to return to that division and believes there's still much for Topuria to demonstrate at featherweight. Makhachev also identified Arman Tsarukyan as an obvious opponent for Topuria, noting that Arman has repeatedly requested that bout and is worthy of the opportunity. Islam Makhachev revealed his surprise at how effortlessly he controlled Jack Della Maddalena on the mat. After analyzing JDM's previous fights, he anticipated the sole escape that Maddalena relies on. Once that option was neutralized, Makhachev recognized there was hardly any resistance left. From that point, he could hold him down for as long as he wanted. Meanwhile, Sonnen shared his thoughts on the fight between Justin Gaethje and Paddy Pimblett, addressing the common belief that Paddy must take Gaethje down to have a chance. While many would assume Gaethje holds the advantage if it stays standing, Sonnen suggested it's not quite that simple. Looking at the sport more broadly, he indicated that results aren't always predictable based on those typical assumptions.
Anticipated the sole escape Maddalena relies on. Once that choice was nullified, Makachev recognized there was hardly any resistance remaining, and from then, he could keep him held fast for as long as he...
Знаете, мы изучали соперников, смотрели его бои. До меня он дрался с Белялом. И у Беляла тоже борцовские навыки. Он переводил его. Мандалена хорошо вставал после тейкдаунов. И вставал одним и тем же приемом, там такой переворот. И я его повалил и смотрю, он пытается сделать этот же переворот. Но я уже был готов к этому и защищался. И я понял, что у него ничего другого нету кроме этого переворота. И про себя говорю. И это все, больше ты ничему не научился, больше у тебя нет других навыков, чтобы встать в стойку. И тогда я понял, что он там надолго.
Meanwhile, Chael Sonnen offered his views on the fight between Justin Gaethje and Paddy Pimblett, remarking on the common wisdom that Paddy must take Gaethje down to stand a chance. Though many would presume Gaethje holds the advantage should it stay standing, Sonnen implied it isn't quite that simple. Considering the sport more widely, he suggested that results are not always predictable from those typical assumptions.
Between Justin Gaethje and Paddy the Baddy. There was a consensus that Paddy has to take Gaethje down, and that if you go back and you look over the history of Gaethje's career, people don't take him down. And meanwhile, the argument would be if it stays on his feet, it would go to Gaethje. Is it that straightforward? I don't think so. And based on what we've seen, I could see where you could come to that conclusion. I'm just sharing if you follow the sport as a whole, we don't really see that anymore.
Sonnen also offered his backing to Arman Tsarukyan, seeking recognition for his professional skill. He stressed that Arman acted as a backup fighter. On short notice, Sonnen emphasized that this dedication merits praise and pardon, adding that he personally pardons Arman and expects others to do likewise.
In 2 weeks as a backup fighter for UFC 324? What's his situation?
Can we please forgive him? Whatever he did to get himself in this weird purgatory, can we also remember that he agreed to be a backup fighter, that he did a training camp, that he flew out to Las Vegas, he went through the commission, he made weight, he was ready to go in on a moment's notice. You get something for that. I want him to get something. I want him recognized. I forgive Arman Tsarukyan. I want other people to forgive him.
Arman Tsarukyan expected he would favor Justin Gaethje to beat Paddy Pimblett. Prepared to confront him next, he indicated that should Paddy win...
Chael Sonnen also voiced his support for Arman Tsarukyan, calling for recognition of his professional dedication. He emphasized that Arman served as a backup fighter on short notice. Sonnen stressed that this level of commitment deserves praise and forgiveness, adding that he personally forgives Arman and expects others to do the same. Arman Tsarukyan predicted he would favor Justin Gaethje to beat Paddy Pimblett and expressed his readiness to fight the winner. He suggested that if Paddy wins, he might try to avoid a bout with Arman, making Gaethje the simpler opponent to challenge. Meanwhile, some have questioned the hype around Tsarukyan's grappling, suggesting recent performances have changed perceptions of him as a stylistic threat. Pimblett indicated that after watching Arman closely, he now views Ilia Topuria as the bigger challenge between the two. Arman Tsarukyan went further by challenging Paddy Pimblett's grappling abilities, suggesting he's not as dangerous on the mat as his reputation implies. He argued that Paddy avoids fighting elite competition, and recent evidence only strengthens Arman's doubts about his ground game capability. Paddy fired back at Arman Tsarukyan, mocking his ground game expertise and questioning his true effectiveness on the mat. He emphasized that his own focus is entirely on fighting. The exchange grew heated as Paddy criticized Arman's outside interests as unnecessary risks, using it to fuel their growing rivalry. That's the complete story behind the current feud between these two fighters. Meanwhile, beyond Arman and Dan Hooker, Paddy is also targeting Ilia Topuria, hoping to challenge him for the featherweight belt sooner rather than later. Despite the rivalry, Paddy Pimblett still acknowledges Topuria's accomplishments inside the octagon and respects his achievements as a fighter. At the same time, he drew a clear line between admiring the resume and his personal opinion of the man, suggesting Topuria isn't authentic. Paddy also dismissed Ilia Topuria's physical stature, pointing out that the size difference between them cannot be ignored. He emphasized that weight classes exist for a reason, and warned that if Topuria moves up to 155 pounds, he'll be entering a fight where a physical disadvantage could quickly become a serious problem.
and leveraged it to fuel their deepening animosity.
Grappling a lot. I know you don't want to talk about him, but how do you feel about his, his grappling tournaments, Steve?
Lad, I heard he nearly got strangled by what's his name?
Shara Magomedov.
Yeah, he nearly got strangled by him, and he can't grapple to save his life either. He's a striker, and he nearly got strangled by him. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Have you ever got any interest of taking those sort of exhibition type things? You know, RAF have got this kind of like grappling thing. Is there ever been like a reach out for like a let's do a grappling match for Pimblett, or is that?
I don't know. Before I was in the UFC years ago, when I was coming back from an injury, I done Polaris one time against Stevie Ray, caught me in a leg lock. That's like the only one I've done in the past 10 years or something like that. I used to do grappling competitions all the time when I was younger and stuff like that, but obviously I'm focused on fighting now. I don't, like, he can go off and do all these other things if he wants, lad, but hopefully he takes his neck doing them.
Conversely, Paddy Pimblett also addressed the recent uproar and condemnation surrounding his earlier words about Dan Hooker, asserting his remarks were misinterpreted. He clarified that he had no intention of disrespecting Hooker's family and deemed the negative reaction unfair. Pimblett compared the response to his words with what he labeled a dearth of anger regarding remarks on his personal loss, portraying this as an instance of how fast stories can evolve in the MMA world.
Bad about his mum. Mrs. Hooker's probably a lovely woman, and I never said a bad word about his mum, but then he goes on and says something about my dead mate who can't defend himself. It was a bit weird. I had my friend's family messaging me saying what's going on here and all that, so like the way people have went on about what I said, but no one condoned what he said and said, what are you doing mentioning someone who's dead, is very, very strange. But you know, that's the MMA world for you. No matter what I do, no matter what I say, people will make me look like the worst man alive when I just used an analogy for how bad Dan Hooker's grappling is.
Their separation is at its widest point. He downplays Hooker's latest streak, stating how he views him. A championship within reach. Pimblett maintains the dispute regarding his words was distorted, adding his remarks were not personal or about family, yet stressing that boundaries were breached much more gravely and queries why he's the one being cast as the antagonist.
Hooker's beneath me now, especially when I win this belt. He's 5-5 in his last 10. He's an absolute crab, you know what I mean? People are calling Michael Chandler washed, and Michael Chandler knocked him out in 2 minutes. So what's Dan Hooker? You don't mention dead people. And that's what Dan Hooker's done. Dan Hooker's mentioned a dead person and basically tried to say it was my fault he killed himself, saying that I'm not a good friend. Like, that's below the belt. What I said was nothing to do with his mum. Never said a bad word about his mum. What I said was an analogy for how bad his grappling is. And somehow, I'm the bad guy and I'm the one who's in the wrong.
In other news, Colby Covington took aim at Khamzat Chimaev, bringing up their previously discussed matchup and framing it as a favorable fight for himself. He claimed that Chimaev won't be able to control him on the mat, which would inevitably turn it into a striking battle. Covington used that scenario to question Chimaev's comfort in stand-up exchanges, implying that getting hit is something he prefers to avoid. Covington went on to acknowledge just how difficult Khamzat Chimaev is to beat. He explained that stopping his takedowns or tiring him out while standing would be an enormous challenge, requiring nearly flawless defensive abilities. Covington emphasized that without significant submission threats or elite takedown defense, Chimaev could dominate the entire division. Covington singled out Israel Adesanya as the fight that makes the most sense for him, as he sets his sights on the middleweight division. He described it as both a personal and competitive battle, referencing old trash talk and stating he wants the chance to see if Adesanya can back up his words inside the cage. Bo Nickal was direct when asked about a potential fight with Colby Covington. He called it a mismatch and positioned himself as the type of challenge that would quickly expose Covington's weaknesses at middleweight. Nickal embraced the spectacle of it all, acknowledging the stage would be massive and serve as a statement to the entire world. Colby Covington fired back at Bo Nickal, calling him out for avoiding a bout with Yoel Romero. He didn't hold back, labeling Nickal a coward and mocking him for refusing to grapple with an opponent nearly 50 years old who missed weight by just a few pounds. That wraps up today's video. We hope you enjoyed it. Let us know your thoughts in the comments below, and be sure to like and subscribe to our channel for more great MMA content.
With a few wins, you and Hamzat, that could be a massive fight, right?
Yeah, you know, we were supposed to fight at welterweight in the past. You know, they were talking about making that fight happen. So I love that fight. I think it's a great fight for me. He's not going to take me down and hold me down. I'll get right up. You know, collegiate wrestling teaches you fight the hands, you know, look for underhooks, get right back to your feet. So he's not going to be holding me like he did his last fight with Dricus. It'll be a completely different fight. And then it's a striking fight, and I think he's scared to strike. I don't think he likes to strike people. He doesn't like to get hit in the face. So, you know, I love that fight. So the quickest path to get there is what I'm looking for. If it's Izzy would be a great stylistic matchup. And then, you know, whoever else is next, and then boom, let's do it. Comes up.
Covington furthermore stressed just how hard Khamzat Chimaev is to overcome. He clarified that halting his takedowns or exhausting him while standing would be a tremendous challenge, and anyone aiming to win and nearly flawless defensive abilities. Covington emphasized that if lacking significant submission dangers or elite takedown resistance, Chimaev might rule the weight class.
Anybody in their top 10 that could beat Hamzat right now?
I mean, you know, you're going to have to be able to stop his takedowns, you know. You're going to have to be able to strike with him and stop his takedowns, get him tired in that department. So I don't know. I don't know if I do see anybody. I can't see the top contenders off my list off the top of my head right now, but, you know, obviously the most worthy contender is Nasruddin Imavov. That's the fight that needs to happen, and, you know, he needs to see if he can get through that test before we start talking about him being unbeatable. But, you know, I mean, to beat him, you're going to have to wrestle into him and defensively have insane sprawls and insane down blocking defense and stop his takedowns and make it a striking fight like Gilbert Burns did, or have such good jiu-jitsu and striking that you can counteract one another. But unless you threaten him with submissions or takedown defense, he's just going to be walking through that division.
He singles out Israel Adesanya as the matchup making the most sense for him, now eyeing the middleweight division. He described it as a personal fight just as much as a competitive one, mentioning old trash talk and stating he wants the opportunity to learn if Adesanya can deliver inside the cage. I think
Israel Adesanya, that's someone that intrigues me, a former champion, you know, like myself, you know, someone that generates hype, has a following, has a platform and a brand. So, you know, I think the Izzy fight makes a lot more sense than anything, and it's someone I don't really like. He's talked a lot about me in the past, so let's see if he can actually back that talk.
Bo Nickal spoke plainly when addressing a possible fight with Colby Covington. He characterized it as an uneven contest and presented himself as the sort of challenge that would quickly reveal Covington's weaknesses at middleweight. Nickal embraced the drama of it, affirming the stage would be immense and delivering a worldwide declaration.
Do it in the UFC in June, and I can just absolutely rip that guy apart and send him packing and end his career. So, you know, that's what I'm looking forward to doing, because I don't think that he would ever in a million years wrestle me. But as far as fighting, the UFC, I think, isn't super happy with him. So they'll probably, you know, there's a chance that they'll just make him fight me.
Wow. So you're saying White House card, you versus Colby. That's what you're referring to.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, as we were doing the press conference post event, he said that he would that he's coming up to middleweight, and so
wow,
you know, all the wrestling people there asked him, said, "Why don't you fight Bo?" And he was like, I don't know, he's not on my level. It's like, all right, bro, I'm not on your level. I'm an easy check. So let's get in there, and I'll embarrass you in front of the entire world.
Colby Covington blasted Bo Nickal, challenging him for ducking a bout with Yoel Romero. He pulled no punches, branding Nickal a coward and taunting him for delaying to grapple with a much older opponent slightly over the weight limit.
And as embarrassing.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's just embarrassing. Bozo Nichols is a complete coward. He's a quitter. The fact that he didn't want to wrestle a guy who missed weight by a couple pounds, the guy's 17 years older than you. He's like almost 50 years old. Why are you worried about a guy that's almost 50 years old? You should want to do good business for the Real American Freestyle brand. Like, you pride yourself on being ready and wanting to be a company man, but you're not showing up for the company. That's 2 times in a row he's pulled out to wrestle Yoel Romero on the Real American Freestyle platform. So it's embarrassing, but it makes sense. We all know Bozo Nichols a quitter. The first time he had a little adversity in his fight career against, I want to apologize to Renner de Ritter here. I want to apologize, because before I called him a Dutch kickboxer, I didn't know he's a grappler.
This wraps up today's video, and we trust you liked it. Let us know your opinions in the comments below, and be sure to like and subscribe to our channel for more awesome MMA content.